The ruthless law of survival. Nature shows no mercy. Africa, the dark continent, where life began and where death never stops, demanding its due. "12,000 square miles of golden plains, stretching from the Serengeti to the Masai Mara, the vastest savanna in East Africa. Nearly 2 million creatures live, hunt, die, and are born on this land every single day. No fences, no borders, only grass, sky, and the laws that evolution has written over 40 million years. This is the stage of the planet's most ancient arms race, where predator and prey have pushed each other to the absolute limit across every generation. And on this land, every day is a war with no permanent victors. The plains zebra, the most abundant wild equine in Africa, weighing between 350 to 450 kilograms. Standing 1.3 to 1.4 meters at the shoulder, with a top speed of 65 kilometers per hour. Each individual bears a unique set of stripes. No two are exactly alike, much like human fingerprints. When the entire herd runs together, their stripes blur into a dizzying optical illusion, making it impossible for a predator to lock onto a single target. With an average lifespan of 20 to 25 years in the wild, a gestation period of 12 to 13 months, producing a single foal. They survive through sheer numbers, hundreds moving together, sheltering one another. The lion, the only big cat on the planet that lives in prides. An average pride consists of 15 individuals, 2 to 3 males, 5 to 7 females, and their cubs. Lionesses weigh between 120 to 180 kilograms, reaching a top speed of 60 kilometers per hour, but only sustaining it for a few hundred meters. Male lions weigh between 180 to 250 kilograms, their manes protecting their throats from lethal bites in combat. A lion's eyes are 8 times more sensitive to light than human eyes, transforming dusk and dawn into their most lethal hunting hours. The lioness is the pride's primary hunter. When hunting alone, the success rate is a mere 15%. When 3 or more coordinate, the success rate doubles to over 30%. With a lifespan of 10 to 14 years in the wild, a gestation period of roughly 3.5 months, producing litters of 2 to 4 cubs. They survive through strategy, striking from all 4 sides. Numbers meet strategy. The outcome is always the same. The zebra herd grazes completely unaware of the golden shadows closing in from downwind. A zebra on the edge of the herd is cut off with no escape route. The lion's jaws lock firmly onto its throat. £400 of sheer force bear down. The prey stops struggling. But there are those who need no allies and have never lacked in ruthlessness. The leopard, the most solitary ambush predator on the savannah. No pride. No allies, only shadows and infinite patience. "60 kilograms of pure muscle, hidden beneath a rosette-patterned coat that dissolves into the dappled shade. The impala, the living alarm system of the savannah. A single bark can alert the entire plain. "80 kilometers per hour, leaping 10 meters in a single bound, 3 meters into the air, changing direction mid-flight as if gravity doesn't exist. Eyes, positioned on the sides of its head, offer near 360-degree vision. Faster than the leopard, more sentinels on guard than the leopard. Every metric tilts in favor of the prey. But that early warning system is completely useless when the enemy is already 3 meters away. Because the leopard does not race for speed, it races for patience. High in the branches, the spotted shadow remains motionless for 2 hours, waiting. Below, the prey is perfectly within striking distance. An explosion of motion. The jaws lock tight. The impala collapses before it can even sound the alarm. Without hesitation, the leopard hoists its kill and scales back up into the high branches, absolutely safe from the reach of hyenas. The war for survival isn't just about making the kill, it's about keeping the meal. Not far away, a golden shadow lies pressed flat against the grass. Ahead, a Thomson's gazelle grazes peacefully. The cheetah, the only creature on the planet that turns thin air into a weapon. "70 kilograms, but engineered like a supercar. A spine as flexible as a coiled spring, a heart twice the normal size, and semi-retractable claws gripping the earth like track spikes." The Thomson's gazelle, the cheetah's primary prey. "25 kilograms, a third of the size. But it can change direction faster, and it can run longer. This is a race where the fastest doesn't necessarily win. Because the cheetah can only sustain its top speed for 30 seconds after that, its body overheats, its core temperature spiking to 41 degrees. If it doesn't make the kill in the first 30 seconds, it loses. The Thomson's gazelle knows this. It doesn't need to run faster, it just needs to run long enough. But today, the distance is simply too short. Acceleration, 3 seconds, 70 miles per hour. A single swipe of the front paw, the prey loses its footing and tumbles into the grass. The chase is over before it even truly began. On the savannah, speed is a sentence without appeal. The fastest creature on Earth needs no second chances. On the African savannah, the war is waged on flat ground with nowhere to hide. But half a world away, the Colombian rainforest stacks life vertically, and at every tier, a different war is raging. Not a single leaf stirs. Not a single bird calls. The Colombian forest floor sinks into a silence that can only mean one thing: a predator is on the move. A dark shadow glides through the shattered shafts of light, piercing the canopy. Golden eyes scan the forest floor. Every footstep is placed without a sound, lighter than a falling leaf. This beast, weighing over 200 pounds, possesses the strongest bite force of all big cats, powerful enough to crush a crocodilian skull and pierce a turtle's shell. It does not fear the water. It patrols the rivers, the swamps, and the forest floor. Wherever prey exists, it stakes its claim. No other big cat on Earth simultaneously dominates the ground, the water, and the trees quite like it does. The jaguar is the ultimate master of all three realms: land, water, and canopy. Short, densely pigmented, water-resistant fur. Neck and jaw muscles developed far beyond any other feline engineered specifically for a skull-crushing bite. Here, on a stretch of land that accounts for less than 1% of the Earth's surface. The jaguar is the law, the judge, and the executioner. But Colombia is not a kingdom ruled by a single sovereign. This country embraces 10% of the world's total biodiversity, over 63,000 recorded species, from the snow-capped peaks of the Andes down to the murky depths of the Amazon River. The Colombian rainforest is a vertical city. Every tier, from the pitch-black riverbed to the highest canopy, is its own nation, with its own laws and its own king. The question isn't who is the strongest. The question is, in the most densely biodiverse forest on the planet, who truly holds the power of life and death? And what could possibly force even the jaguar, a predator, with a skull-piercing bite, to quietly walk away? The answer begins where the light never reaches beneath the black waters of the Amazon basin. The camera sinks. The river's reflection of the canopy shatters. Another world opens up below. And in that world, the jaguar is no longer king. The Colombian Amazon River is unlike any other river on the planet. Waters black as steeped tea, stained by millions of decaying leaves concealing everything beneath the surface. This is the lowest tier of the vertical city. And the overlord of this tier has existed since before the last of the dinosaurs. The black caiman, a fully grown male, reaches lengths of 13 to 16 feet, reigning as the largest predator in the Amazon basin. Its pitch-black skin absorbs the sun's heat more efficiently than any other reptile in the Amazon. By day, they bask on the muddy banks. By night, They become invisible phantoms beneath the water. The black caiman's jaws house 72 conical teeth, designed not for chewing, but for gripping. Only its eyes and nostrils breach the surface. The rest of its massive body jaws, claws, and tail remains entirely submerged, invisible to any prey on the shore. Its tactic does not require speed. Patience is the only weapon it needs. And the river returns to an eerie calm, as if nothing had ever happened. After a substantial meal, a black caiman can go for months without eating again. Its metabolism is so slow that it operates as a perfectly engineered, energy-saving machine. The black caiman's territory stretches along the rivers and swamps. But the black caiman is not the only creature laying claim to the aquatic tier. The Colombian rainforest remains full of the unknown. Within those same dark swamplands, another force is waiting. It has no legs. It has no claws. The green anaconda, the heaviest predator in the snake kingdom. Beneath the water, it is virtually invisible. On land, it is sluggish, but once trapped in its coils, no creature escapes. The Colombian rainforest remains full of the unknown. The caiman controls the deep rivers. The anaconda dominates the swamps. And when a spectacled caiman wanders into that untamed territory, the coils tighten. With every breath the caiman exhales, the grip cinches tighter. While the caiman and anaconda divide the territory through brute force, a third faction challenges them both, not with fangs and claws, but with sheer intellect. The giant otter, known to the indigenous people as the river wolf. A fully grown male measures between 5 to 6 feet in length. They are not the largest, but they are the most fiercely united. They possess the shortest water-repellent fur of any otter species, yet it is twice as dense. When a lone otter falls into the crosshairs, the caiman's jaws snap shut. But that is the caiman's fatal mistake, because the river wolf never travels alone. The alarm call rings out, and the entire family of otters immediately mounts a coordinated counterattack. Losing a single member means losing a crucial link in their tactical formation. A smaller family means weakened collective strength, and the odds of defeating a caiman grow increasingly slim. Despite this, giant otter populations are currently collapsing. The IUCN classifies them as endangered, with only 2,000 to 5,000 individuals left worldwide. If they disappear, the Amazon River will lose the only regulatory force capable of keeping the black caiman in check. The caiman, the anaconda. The giant otter, 3 titans, sharing the exact same tier, the aquatic realm in Colombia's vertical city. Each wields its own unique weapon, the jaws, the crushing coils, the collective intelligence. The balance of power between this triad ensures the river never truly belongs to a single ruler. Break any side of this triangle, and the entire aquatic tier falls out of balance. Yet, beneath these placid waters lies a weapon that no amount of sheer muscle can withstand. An invisible weapon. No physical contact required, no biting necessary. And it is about to rewrite every rule the Amazon's aquatic tier has followed for millions of years. In the murky waters of Colombia's Orinoco and Amazon basins, there exists a creature that resembles a harmless, oversized eel. Stretching over 8 feet long, with sleek, dark gray skin, it silently glides across the muddy riverbed. The electric eel, Electrophorus. 80% of its near 8-foot body consists of electricity-generating organs, 3 specialized systems functioning entirely independently. Upon detecting prey, the eel switches instantly to attack mode. Its pulse frequency spikes. The prey's exact coordinates are locked in. There is no safe distance. There is no dodging. The electricity surges through the water like an invisible detonation. Single-handedly, the electric eel deftly herds a school of small fish into a tight corner before unleashing a lethal, finishing shock, a deadly hunting tactic, not merely a blind instinct. This discovery overturned every assumption about a creature long considered simple in the underwater realm. The electric eel knows how to coordinate. It knows how to wait. It knows how to strike in unison. The line between raw instinct and calculated strategy blurs in the deepest trenches of the Amazon. In the domain of the electric eel, nothing is safe. Piranhas steer clear. Caimans tread cautiously. Even the jaguar, a beast that fears nothing on the forest floor, absolutely avoids direct contact with an electric eel when wading through deep water. "860 volts do not distinguish between the strong and the weak. They only distinguish between the living and the dead." Pure muscle, the weapon that dictates every battle between the caiman, the anaconda, and the otter, suddenly becomes entirely meaningless against an invisible electrical current. The law of the biggest wins has just been overturned, and it is about to be overturned yet again by something vastly smaller. Sharing the aquatic tier with the electric eel is a miniature army of fangs, the red-bellied piranha. Each individual boasts a bite force 30 times its own body weight, an absolute record in the world of bony fish. The piranha's jaw operates like a miniaturized hydraulic clamp. Razor-sharp triangular teeth interlock, perfectly slicing through flesh and tendon as easily as cutting through butter. A single drop of capybara blood is the starting gun, instantly rallying a few scattered piranhas into a swarming legion. Amidst the boiling chaos of this tornado of teeth, a frantic feeding frenzy ensues, leaving absolutely no chance of survival for the massive prey. However, piranhas are not merely agents of destruction. They are the essential cleanup crew of the Amazon River. Disposing of carcasses, preventing disease outbreaks, and recycling vital nutrients back into the river system. Without piranhas, the Amazon would choke on rotting animals, and toxic pollution would explode. And yet, the piranha is also prey. Giant otters encircle the piranhas, using their own tactical maneuvers, the hunter hunted by the vastly more intelligent. Each species keeps the population of the other in check. If the piranha vanishes, carcasses pile up and disease runs rampant. If the caiman disappears, piranha populations will multiply uncontrollably. The Amazonian food web is not a straight chain, it is a complex grid, and every single link prevents the entire system from collapsing. The electric eel uses voltage. The piranha uses sheer numbers and serrated teeth. But the greatest subversion, the true midpoint twist, does not emerge from the water. It comes from the forest floor, from a creature no larger than a human thumb. Just touch it, only once, and everything ends. The golden poison frog, measuring less than 2 inches in length, weighing less than a single ounce. A brilliant, radiant yellow amidst the gloomy forest floor, glowing like a living gem. But that color is no ornament. It is a warning, an aposematic signal, a visual cue. Every creature in the rainforest understands, instinctively, stay away or perish. Its skin is saturated with batrachotoxin, one of the most potent neurotoxins ever recorded in the natural world. A single frog carries enough concentrated venom to kill 10 to 20 adult humans. Endemic exclusively to the Choco region of Western Colombia, found nowhere else on Earth. 63,000 species, and the deadliest of them all exists only in this singular, isolated corner of the rainforest. The source of this lethal venom stems entirely from its diet, ants and beetles containing toxic alkaloids. The frog absorbs, concentrates, and metabolizes them, turning its own body into a mobile chemical weapon. Raised in captivity, stripped of its natural food source, the frog becomes entirely harmless. The toxicity is not innate. It is a product forged by the forest itself. The jaguar knows this through primal instinct. The predator that can crack a caiman's skull, fearing neither water nor serpent, still encounters something it must absolutely avoid. Spotting that vibrant yellow on the forest floor, the jaguar quietly turns away. No hesitation, no looking back. In the Colombian rainforest, the most dangerous entity requires neither fangs nor muscle. It relies solely on chemistry, and evolution has provided the perfect formula. The IUCN lists the golden poison frog as endangered. Deforestation in the Choco is shrinking its only known habitat. If lost, the planet will lose a biological weapon that nature can never recreate. It was the indigenous Embera people who gave this frog the name Poison Dart, and it is they who are protecting the last remaining forests where it still survives. The electric eel commands voltage. The poison frog harnesses chemistry. Both shatter the law of might makes right, proving that in the rainforest, an invisible weapon is the most formidable weapon of all. And amidst it all, surrounded by the caiman's jaws, the anaconda's coils, the eel's shock, and the frog's toxin, stands a creature armed with absolutely no weapons, yet it is the crucial link connecting them all. The capybara, the largest rodent on the planet, weighing up to 145 pounds, stretching over 4 feet in length, and living in highly social herds of up to 40 individuals. Excellent swimmers equipped with webbed feet. Its eyes, ears, and nostrils sit atop its head, much like a hippopotamus, allowing it to remain vigilant while almost entirely submerged. Capable of diving continuously for 5 minutes straight to evade predators. The capybara serves as the common prey for the jaguar, the black caiman, and the anaconda. It It is the keystone upon which all three apex predators rely, the biological bridge uniting the aquatic and terrestrial food webs. But the capybara is also an ecosystem engineer. Its relentless grazing maintains the riverbank meadows, carving out vital open spaces for nesting birds and reptiles. When a single capybara detects danger, an urgent alarm bark rings out. Beneath the water, the caiman waits. On the banks, the jaguar sets its ambush. Nowhere is safe. The capybara survives not through strength, but through extreme fecundity, breeding fast enough to sustain every predator around it, while keeping its own population perfectly intact. Directly overhead, in the highest reaches of the canopy, where sunlight first kisses the leaves, another pair of eyes gazes down upon it all. Eyes 8 times sharper than a human's, and talons the size of a grizzly bear's claws. The sovereign of the final tier of this vertical city, the aerial realm, is preparing its strike. Upon the very summit of the canopy, where the final tier of the vertical city meets the sky, the queen reigns supreme. The Harpy eagle, the most powerful raptor of the tropical rainforest, and one of the largest eagles on the planet, a wingspan stretching over 6 feet, curved talons measuring 4 to 5 inches long, rivaling the claws of a North American grizzly. Those talons aren't merely sharp. They operate on a biological ratchet mechanism. Once locked onto a victim, the muscles automatically maintain their crushing grip without expending any further energy. Even if the eagle were to fall asleep, the grip would never loosen. An adaptation designed by millions of years of evolution for one singular purpose: to ensure prey never slips away. The harpy's vision is 8 times sharper than a human's. From the tallest emergent tree, it peers through the dense canopy labyrinth, easily spotting a 3-toed sloth, heavily camouflaged among the green leaves. The 3-toed sloth, Bradypus variegatus, weighing a mere 9 to 11 pounds, moving barely 48 feet in a single day, rendering it one of the slowest mammals on land. Its fur, hosting symbiotic green algae and sloth moth larvae, a miniature, mobile ecosystem on its back, transforms it into an indistinguishable extension of the tree itself, nearly invisible. The eagle flies almost soundlessly through the dense canopy, relying on a sit-and-wait ambush tactic rather than soaring high above. Short, broad wings, coupled with a long tail, the perfect aerodynamic design for threading through a thicket of branches at speeds exceeding 50 miles per hour. From a high angle, having locked onto the sloth, the harpy dives. The massive talons slam shut. The prey is effortlessly plucked from its branch. The strike is over before it even truly began. The 3-toed sloth possesses 4-inch curved claws and the ability to rotate its head 270 degrees. But absolutely nothing can save it once the Harpy eagle has locked its sights. The Harpy also hunts capuchin monkeys, among the most agile and highly intelligent primates in the Amazon. Armed with a prehensile tail functioning as a flexible fifth limb, they climb, swing, and vault between the branches with astonishing velocity. The moment they detect the Harpy's shadow, capuchins unleash a frantic alarm call that echoes across the canopy. The entire troop scatters, leaping wildly in every direction in a desperate scramble for cover. Sometimes they escape, sometimes they do not. The Harpy eagle only needs to succeed once. However, the Harpy eagle pays a steep evolutionary price for its immense power, an agonizingly slow reproductive rate. A mated pair constructs a colossal nest in the crown of the tallest emergent tree, a structure spanning over 5 feet wide, woven from thick branches and reused year after year. They raise just one single chick every 2 to 3 years. The fledgling remains entirely dependent on its parents for over a year and a half before it can hunt on its own. A single offspring, 2 to 3 years of meticulous care. The population recovery rate drops to near zero if even one adult individual is lost. The IUCN classifies the Harpy eagle as vulnerable. Deforestation selectively strips away the very emergent giants they require for nesting, and when those trees fall, an entire Harpy lineage loses its home. High in the canopy, the Harpy is the undisputed supreme ruler. No other bird dares to challenge it. No prey is safe once the sharpest eyes in the rainforest have acquired their target. The king of the sky, the highest tier. Yet, directly below down on the forest floor, where sunlight splinters through the foliage, another contender is returning. The Jaguar, the very beast that opened this story. And now it will settle the debate of who truly holds the ultimate power. Upon the muddy bank, the Jaguar lies in ambush. Beneath the murky water, a black caiman drifts perfectly into its crosshairs. The water explodes. The jaws slam shut. With a blinding sudden strike, the most devastating bite force of any feline drives straight through the crocodilian's armored skull. A fatal, absolute blow. The violent clash between two overlords ends in an instant. With peerless, brute strength, the Jaguar drags its monstrous prize back into the shadows. This is the apex of conflict. Two apex predators, the king of the forest floor and the king of the water, colliding at the exact boundary where earth meets river. And the Jaguar prevails through sheer, unadulterated power, through a biting technique honed by millions of years of evolution for one singular, brutal purpose. But even the beast that just assassinated a caiman is not invincible. In the deep water, an electric eel, armed with 860 volts, remains a boundary it simply dares not cross. On the forest floor, a tiny poison dart frog, packing enough neurotoxin to kill 20 men, still forces this king to tuck its tail and walk away. No one holds ultimate power. The Colombian rainforest has no king. There are only those who manage to survive until tomorrow. And tomorrow begins when the sun once again pierces through the foliage, casting its rays upon the damp forest floor, where the jaguar silently resumes its prowl. Silent, invisible, as if nothing had ever changed in the most ancient vertical city on the planet. Because in this place, there are no endings, only new beginnings, expertly camouflaged in the shadows. Welcome to WildVerse, where we explore the most extraordinary mysteries the natural world has to offer. The first streaks of golden sunlight blaze across the Serengeti plains, awakening a cycle of life and loss that is as brutal and unsparing as it is achingly beautiful. "12,000 square miles of sun-bleached golden grassland shudder beneath the pale glow of dawn, exposing secrets that the darkness had carefully buried just hours before. The stillness of morning is merely a fragile, paper-thin veil concealing a vast arena of life and death struggle already prepared and waiting for the most seasoned hunters to take their positions. In this unforgiving land, each new day begins not with peace, but with an eternal question that hangs heavy in the air about the razor-thin boundary between life and death. Light brings warmth to all living things, yet it simultaneously strips the most vulnerable creatures bare before the cold, watchful gaze of bloodthirsty predators scanning the horizon. For the mothers who raise their young on the vast African plains, the moment the sun clears the horizon marks the beginning of a war of endurance that knows no pause and offers no quarter. The maternal instinct here is not simply gentle shelter or tender care. It is a primal weapon forged and sharpened through millions of years of unforgiving evolution. From a scientific perspective, the protection of offspring stands as one of nature's most intricate and demanding mechanisms, ensuring the preservation of precious genetic code for generations to come. And today's story begins beneath the thorny, twisting canopy of acacia trees, where a quiet miracle of creation is unfolding in perfect, reverent silence. A mother giraffe stands resolute and unwavering upon the cracked, sun-baked earth, preparing to welcome her fragile newborn into the dangerous and unforgiving world beyond. Standing 16 feet tall and carrying a weight of nearly 1,760 pounds, the mother towers like a lone sentinel above the gently rippling sea of grass. Her large, liquid dark eyes, fringed with impossibly long lashes, sweep ceaselessly across the landscape in vigilance, cataloguing every subtle disturbance from the rustling thickets in the distance. Yet her imposing size does nothing whatsoever to diminish the agony and mortal peril of giving birth in the open wilderness with no barrier of protection. Unlike many other mammals, a female giraffe must deliver her calf while standing fully upright, a biologically mandatory position that remains fraught with mortal risk at every moment. The calf slides free from the birth canal and drops 6.5 feet through open air, slamming with jarring force onto the sun-hardened ground of the parched savanna. That violent impact is no cruel accident of nature, but a necessary and deliberate jolt designed to instantly activate the newborn's heartbeat and kickstart its respiratory system into action. Moments after the bruising fall, the 130-pound infant must summon every last ounce of strength to stand upright on 4 trembling, desperately fragile legs. In this pitiless and indifferent world, any delay, even the briefest hesitation, can cost a life, for the scent of fresh blood has already drifted into the early morning breeze. The mother lowers her towering neck and head, running her long, coarse tongue across the calf again and again in sweeping strokes, cleaning it while conveying a silent reassurance. This urgent grooming ritual also serves a critically vital purpose, erasing the telltale birth scents that could lure countless famished predators lurking hungrily in the surrounding brush. In fewer than 20 minutes after its first traumatic fall, the calf manages to stand upright on wobbly legs and attempt its very first tentative steps beneath the warm morning light. Yet the joy of arrival proves cruelly brief when the mother's keen, radar-like ears suddenly detect a faint rustle emanating from the low scrub dangerously nearby. There is no room for hesitation or fear in this moment. The fierce resolve to protect her young draws the mother's massive body taut like a bowstring ready to snap. Less than 50 feet away, a leopard presses flat against the bare earth, its beautifully dappled coat blending flawlessly into the shifting patchwork of light and shadow within the tangled thicket. This solitary and profoundly cunning predator typically hunts under cover of twilight, but the gnawing ache of hunger has driven it to seek opportunity in the fragility of a newborn life. Cold amber eyes, unblinking and calculating, lock onto the stumbling calf, measuring every movement with a patience so meticulous and precise it borders on terrifying. But the wily hunter has gravely underestimated the fierce and unyielding will of a mother, standing between a deadly threat and the tiny life she has just brought into this world. The instant the leopard lunges forward in an explosive blur of speed, the mother giraffe lashes out with her front leg, unleashing a kick powerful enough to shatter bone and skull alike. A single strike from a giraffe's foreleg generates enough force to kill a fully grown male lion outright. Evolution has transformed these deceptively slender limbs into the savannah's most lethal defensive weapons. The cat's battle-honed reflexes allow the leopard to twist and dodge the fatal blow by the thinnest of margins, yet the devastating power behind it shatters any remaining will to press the attack. Recognizing the mortal danger posed by the mother's overwhelming reach and striking power, the leopard silently retreats and nimbly scales the gnarled trunk of a nearby acacia. From the safety of a high fork in the sunlit branches, it watches with bitter frustration as the calf gradually drifts out of sight, shielded by a towering mother who stands as an impenetrable wall of defense. The first confrontation of the day closes on a breathless, razor-edged note. The calf survives for now, but the sprawling grasslands have never lacked for other hungry eyes craving fresh blood. In the faded, bleached patch of savanna grass to the east, enormous tawny shapes begin to stir, shaking off the sluggish torpor of a long night's failed hunt. They are the lionesses, the undisputed and unchallenged sovereigns of the grasslands, stretching languidly and yawning wide to reveal rows of sharp, ivory teeth that haunt every creature's nightmares. They stand primed and ready to orchestrate a savage cooperative hunt beneath the blazing, merciless eye of a sun already beginning to scorch the parched earth below. Each member of the pride weighs approximately 285 pounds, packing thick, powerful slabs of muscle concealed beneath a sleek coat of dark, tawny fur. Once the pride coordinates a unified attack, their collective success rate escalates exponentially, transforming them into the single most fearsome force that any herbivore on the open plain will ever face. Their target this time is not the vast, restless herds of wildebeest, but a small warthog family rooting contentedly and obliviously through the thick undergrowth of the wild grassland. The mother warthog, with curved tusks jutting skyward and tiny, alert eyes darting in every direction, leads her mud-caked piglets single file across the dangerously open grazing ground. Thanks to eye sockets positioned unusually high atop the flattened skull, warthogs possess a sweeping field of vision that is nearly panoramic in coverage. When synchronized with their acutely sensitive auditory system, this sophisticated biological apparatus creates a flawless radar network, continuously scanning and filtering every faint trace of approaching predators from extreme distances. Despite their ungainly appearance and deceptively stubby legs, these squat creatures are formidable and explosive sprinters when cornered and pushed to the absolute edge of desperation. Without warning, a hot, arid gust of wind shifts direction and carries the unmistakable musky scent of Africa's most notorious and feared carnivores straight into the mother warthog's twitching nostrils. A piercing alarm squeal rips through the stillness of the morning air, instantly commanding every piglet to wheel around and bolt in a frantic, chaotic scramble for their lives. Realizing that the element of surprise has been irretrievably lost, the lead lioness explodes from the concealing brush in a terrifying burst of acceleration that can reach 50 miles per hour. The cracked, baked earth seems to tremble with each thunderous, deliberate stride of the pursuing hunter as the life or doom gap shrinks at a dizzying, stomach-churning pace. Yet the mother warthog has already shrewdly calculated a flawless escape route, steering her entire family directly toward a grass-tufted termite mound looming just ahead in their path. The entire warthog family accelerates to their maximum speed of 31 miles per hour, draining their last remaining reserves of energy in a desperate, all-or-nothing race against doom, closing in fast behind them. Just as the lioness's curved, razor-sharp claws measuring a full 1.5 inches reach down to seize them, the piglets deftly slip one by one into a narrow burrow entrance. Obeying an instinct older than memory itself, the mother always enters last, using her rock-hard bony skull and razor-sharp tusks as a living shield to block the dark mouth of the den. This long-abandoned burrow plunges a full 10 feet below the hard-packed surface, forming a natural underground fortress that lies wholly beyond the reach of any deadly weapon prowling above. The lioness snarls in strangled fury, raking her powerful front claws across the stone-hard packed earth at the burrow entrance in a frenzy of futile, impotent desperation. The commotion quickly draws other members of the pride, who surround the sole exit from every angle and take turns plunging their claws downward in a frantic, disordered assault. Dirt and sand fly upward in blinding clouds that momentarily obscure the sky. But the ancient, sun-baked clay has been fired too hard by years of equatorial heat to yield or crumble. Despite the terrifying sounds of clawing and scraping that echo from above, the solid, compacted structure of the deep burrow shelters every small, trembling heartbeat hidden within its dark embrace. Meanwhile, the scorching African sun has climbed to its highest zenith, pouring merciless, unfiltered heat onto the open grassland with an intensity capable of withering any creature caught in its full glare. The punishing heat, combined with the extreme physical exertion of frenzied digging, forces the lions into heavy, labored panting, their hearts pounding dangerously, while dehydration drains their bodies at an alarming rate. Beneath the scorching African sun, they confront a cruel and inescapable biological limitation. Their skin is entirely incapable of producing sweat to cool the body. The only available method of thermoregulation is continuous, open-mouthed panting. This is not a choice, but a passive physiological mechanism, one that becomes dangerously fragile when engulfed by the searing air currents of the dry season. At the absolute safety of 10 feet underground, the mother warthog and her piglets lie nestled together in a naturally cool subterranean environment, holding their defensive position with iron resolve and without a single gap. Though her muscles remain coiled tight in the pitch-black darkness, the mother grimly aims both razor-sharp tusks outward toward the burrow entrance, ready to impale anything foolish enough to reach inside. The stubbornness of these powerful hunting specialists is tested to its absolute breaking point as the scorching heat slowly and methodically erodes their fighting spirit and the body's irreplaceable reserves. Minutes crawl by in suffocating, excruciating slowness, and the siege gradually transforms into a contest of raw physiological endurance between giant predators and an invisible fire raining down from the sky. After nearly 60 agonizing minutes of utterly futile effort, the lead lioness finally recognizes that squandering precious energy beneath this blistering sun is a course of action entirely misguided. She issues a low, guttural growl to rescind her command, and the exhausted besieging formation wearily abandons the digging, struggling to rise and shaking thick layers of accumulated dust from their coats. The hulking silhouettes of the lion pride trudge away from the empty battlefield, dragging themselves toward a thin sliver of shade beneath a skeletal, half-dead acacia to recover their strength for another opportunity. Deep within the dark, earthen refuge, the mother warthog remains frozen like a carved statue, claiming a silent yet profoundly thunderous victory of love and devotion over the very blade of annihilation itself. The bloodless confrontation draws to a clean and decisive close, reaffirming an enduring truth of the natural world. Sometimes humble, cunning, and shrewd intelligence alone can topple the mightiest fury. This improbable survival stands as the most striking proof that sheer muscle and overwhelming size do not always hold the ultimate power to decide between existence and oblivion. The forces of nature maintain a stern and unwavering equilibrium, where even the smallest and seemingly weakest inhabitants are still granted a fighting chance to reach tomorrow. This retreat means the lion pride must endure gnawing hunger for yet another long, punishing stretch. But for the mother warthog, it is a sacred reward earned through unparalleled courage and resolve. Heart-stopping encounters seem to be a daily staple that never runs scarce on the vast Serengeti, where every passing shadow carries within it the seed of sudden catastrophe. And the tragedies unfolding one after another across this quiet, sun-baked land will continue to etch the inescapable truth that the line between living and perishing cuts deeper than even the sun's most oppressive wrath. The dust settles at last. the chase fades into a muted note of lingering silence, casting the landscape back into a staggering emptiness devoid of even a single patch of cooling shade. The frame drifts upward from the still safety deep underground, floating along the ashen tracts of dying grass that shimmer and writhe beneath blinding waves of rising heat mirage. Scorching currents of superheated air warp every shape along the endless, wavering horizon, deceiving the eye with glittering pools of phantom water that lure weary travelers ever deeper into despair. Yet standing defiant at the very heart of this boundless furnace of open wasteland, a lone, steadfast figure challenges the all-consuming power of destruction surrounding it on every side. A female ostrich, imposing and formidable in stature, patrols with careful, measured strides around her nest, her sharp eyes blinking ceaselessly as she monitors every inch of the exposed perimeter. Beneath those layered feathers lies a biological machine engineered for the most extreme forms of survival. Her long, sinewy legs and explosive thigh muscles do not merely make her the undisputed champion of overland sprinting. They are also a devastatingly lethal weapon of defense. When cornered, an ostrich does not flee. It transforms those powerful legs into sledgehammers, delivering kicks with enough force to crush the skull of even the proudest predator. Though nature stripped away the privilege of flight, it forged in return a set of reinforced claws beneath those feet, hard as sharpened steel, capable of splitting open the chest of any adversary bold enough to challenge. In the midst of a furnace that threatens to reduce all living things to smoldering ash, the mother ostrich holds her ground with stoic determination and spreads her grey-silver wings wide open on either side. This peculiar and cumbersome posture serves absolutely no purpose of display or personal heat relief. It forms a perfect biological sunshade, a living canopy that could not be more effective at shielding what lies beneath. Beneath that sturdy, outstretched canopy, her massive ivory-colored eggs escape the incinerating fury of a completely unobstructed sun, blazing down without mercy from a cloudless sky. The mother ostrich holds her supreme duty as absolute and unbreakable law, rejecting every thought of abandoning her post, even for the briefest blink of rest or personal relief. For even the smallest lapse of negligence could erase weeks of devoted, painstaking incubation in an instant, offering up the fruits of her sacrifice as a lavish feast for prowling scavengers. In this merciless arena where no rules separate right from wrong, the flesh-searing light pouring from directly overhead is far from the only killer poised to claim the lives of these defenseless, developing embryos. Without warning, from the ragged, shimmering edge of the yellow horizon, a sleek, dark silhouette slices through the hot wind, gliding low over the grass, tips like an arrow tearing through space. It is the cheetah nature's supreme and most elegantly sculpted masterpiece of pure speed, hurling itself across the plain to secure a quick meal and replenish its critically depleted energy reserves. eyes marked with twin dark streaks that trail downward like tear lines stained with blood, lock coldly and deliberately onto the unguarded nest, sitting dangerously exposed on the barren ground. The punishing sprint under this furnace-like heat devours stamina at a ferocious rate, driving the cheetah's heart to a staggering 250 beats per minute as it pounds across the cracked earth. Ragged, gasping breaths propel the lean, streamlined frame ever closer to the physiological threshold, where its already overtaxed internal cooling system will collapse entirely. Refusing to commit to a bloody, energy-draining frontal assault, and equally unwilling to abandon her precious treasure and flee to salvage the fading privilege of existence. Instead, the mother ostrich deliberately staggers away from the safety zone surrounding her nest, dragging one wing limply along the hard ground as though she has been mortally wounded. She presents a flawless and utterly convincing performance of total devastation, painting the perfect portrait of a broken creature who has absorbed a fatal blow and is counting down its final, feeble moments. The pitiful sound of feeble wings flapping weakly and pathetically through the air, combined with her carefully calculated stumbling rhythm, instantly seizes the keen predatory attention of the bloodthirsty hunter. Ravaging hunger clawing through its gut, paired with the supreme confidence that comes from unmatched speed, blinds the cheetah into believing it has stumbled upon effortless prey too feeble to resist. Following its deeply ingrained preference for easy, vulnerable targets, the cheetah abruptly redirects its entire pursuit toward the hobbling mother ostrich, completely dismissing the protein-rich eggs now receding far behind. But this classic ruse of cunning deception is a life-or-death gamble that places the courageous mother ostrich on the very thinnest edge of a knife blade, balanced between survival and annihilation. She bears the critical task of controlling the distance with surgical precision, keeping it just close enough to provoke her pursuer into following, yet never once allowing those snapping jaws to close on her heels. She must also maintain her footing across the treacherously uneven, rocky terrain, for a single stumble on this ground would invite the hunter's claws to shred her slender neck in the space of an instant. The cheetah, drunk on the adrenaline and thrill of the chase, pours every last remaining drop of energy into the unyielding pursuit, utterly convinced that its razor-sharp claws will soon pin the enormous bird into the dirt. Just as the deadly overture seems poised to close the gap to nothing, the mother ostrich snaps her wings shut, plants her powerful thighs, and erupts into a blistering acceleration that stretches safety in an instant. The physical punishment of chasing an impossible phantom through scalding, energy-sapping heat sends the cheetah's core temperature rocketing past every critical red line threshold in its finely calibrated system. Its open-mouthed panting mechanism, the sole available means of shedding heat, collapses entirely, overwhelmed and defeated by the terrifying rate of friction-generated warmth, from muscles contracting without a moment's pause. Searing heat invades every fiber of the cheetah's exhausted body, forcing its jaws agape in a continuous, futile gasp for oxygen from air grown too thick, too hot, and too depleted to offer any relief. The blood coursing through its veins verges dangerously on boiling, sounding an urgent biological alarm that even a few more seconds of running will inflict permanent, irreversible damage to its finely tuned brain. The stride that moments ago scattered terror with every thundering footfall now deteriorates into a stumbling, directionless shamble, stripped of all the explosive power and purpose that defined it. The once phenomenal propulsion from those muscular hind legs evaporates without a trace, leaving behind only a chain of labored, agonized steps dragging slowly and painfully across the scorched, brittle grass. Defeated and utterly spent, the cheetah collapses on its side beneath the meager shade of a rare, dead tree stump, where the temperature grants only marginally more mercy than the open, flesh-scorching plain sprawling around it. Its sunken flanks heave violently with each ragged, broken breath, while glassy, resentful eyes track the silhouette of the mother ostrich gliding away with effortless, triumphant composure, forever beyond any hope of pursuit. Masterful cunning woven inseparably with a transcendent maternal flame has utterly extinguished the fabled speed advantage of this supreme, purpose-built killing machine of the open grassland. The wild arena has never offered pity or granted a single moment of peaceful respite. The close of one contest immediately triggers the activation of another equally pitiless cycle of endurance. The spent and thoroughly drained cheetah must now steel itself for the next punishing trial, no less grueling than the last, if it harbors any hope of surviving past the fading amber light already descending across the horizon. Yet the uncertain path ahead, a desperate upstream search for water to quench a parched and burning throat at the great river bend, still harbors countless lethal snares lying in patient ambush. The sun begins its gradual, inevitable descent toward the western horizon, stretching solitary shadows across the yellowed earth and heralding the eruption of an entirely new phase of the struggle. The weary cheetah slowly and painfully rises on legs that still tremble visibly, dragging itself step by heavy step toward the dark ribbon of water glinting beneath the dying light of dusk. A thirst that scorches the throat with unbearable intensity has now surpassed even primal fear, compelling this weakened hunter to advance directly into the most dangerous territory on the entire plain. The great riverbank appears at first glance to be an oasis of blessed salvation, but in truth it is a tightly contested battleground controlled by forces of staggering and immovable magnitude. The moment it steps onto the muddy strip along the bank, the cheetah freezes in its tracks and immediately retreats before a wall of living flesh so immense it blocks the entire line of sight. They are the African elephants, the largest land dwellers on Earth, calmly and unhurriedly occupying the entire shallow stretch of the river to savor the rare and precious gift of cool water. Each fully grown adult carries a weight of up to 13,200 pounds, wielding an absolutely crushing dominance that can obliterate any obstacle foolish enough to stand in its path. The matriarch leads the herd with iron discipline and perpetually heightened vigilance, standing guard against any stranger daring to venture too close to the vulnerable young within her family. Her vast, paddle-shaped ears fan continuously to dissipate heat from the intricate network of blood vessels within, while simultaneously functioning as ultrasensitive biological antennae that detect low-frequency sound waves as early warning. Their thick, deeply wrinkled hide serves as a formidable natural suit of armor, shielding their massive bodies from the piercing thorns of the bush and the fangs and claws of would-be attackers. The cheetah understands its own insignificance before these living mountains all too well, obediently shrinking back into the undergrowth and silently slipping away along a winding detour farther downstream. In the natural world, knowing precisely when to yield before a superior force is sometimes the single most important key to extending the precious chance of survival for one more day. The elephants continue plunging their long, flexible trunks deep into the current to draw long draughts of clear water, bathing their calves who splash and play directly beneath their mothers' protective bellies. The tranquil scene, filled with the gentle, soothing sound of rippling water, momentarily dispels the suffocating tension of the long, scorching day. Yet the Mara River has never truly been free of hidden snares. The flat surface of the water ripples without warning, concealing the stealthy approach of a prehistoric crushing machine, drifting silently through the murk like a harmless, rotting log. Camouflaged flawlessly beneath the turbid layer of river silt, a Nile crocodile reveals only its cold, unblinking eyes and two tiny nostrils breaking the still surface of the water. Armed with reinforced horn-like scales and jaws that deliver the strongest recorded bite force on the planet, this cold-blooded swamp assassin is the living nightmare of every creature compelled to approach the water's edge. The crocodile's chosen target is not the invulnerable adult giants standing guard, but the young, oblivious calves splashing carelessly and playfully at the very edge of the shallow water. Without producing a single betraying sound, the cold-blooded killer whips its immensely muscular tail and launches itself toward its chosen prey at a speed that completely defies expectation. Jaws, bristling with dozens of interlocking, needle-sharp teeth, burst open, shattering the calm surface of the water in a devastating killing strike, aimed at dragging the victim into the dark, suffocating depths. But the matriarch's protective instinct reacts with a speed that exceeds even the attacker's lightning-fast snap launched from the concealed depths of the murky water. A deep, rumbling bellow reverberates across the entire stretch of river, shaking the air itself as the matriarch charges forward, using her powerful trunk to hurl the calf safely behind her in one sweeping motion. Simultaneously, her sharp ivory tusks and massive forelegs slam down into the soft mud with tremendous force, sending a violent wave crashing directly into the exposed face of the attacker. The crushing water pressure and the imminent, terrifying threat of being trampled beneath several tons of enraged muscle force the Nile crocodile to abandon its hunting strategy immediately and completely. Recognizing the insurmountable weight disparity, and finding absolutely no viable path to victory against the full fury of an enraged matriarch, the crocodile grudgingly and reluctantly concedes defeat. It slowly slithers backward through the shallow water, drifting away from the bank and sinking silently into the deep, churning center of the current where it can regroup. The elephant herd swiftly closes ranks into a tight, impenetrable defensive circle, placing the smallest and most vulnerable members at the protected center, shielded from every prying eye. The swamp assassin drifts out into the turbulent middle of the Mara, patiently anchoring itself at another strategic ambush position to await a far more bountiful feast that it senses is soon approaching. For a deep, rhythmic sound that shakes the very earth from the far distance is growing steadily louder with each passing moment, heralding the arrival of the greatest natural phenomenon on the entire continent. Dust rises in towering, billowing clouds that obscure the crimson evening sky, the pounding of countless hooves rumbling like an earthquake tearing across the trembling surface of the plain. The Great Migration has officially erupted, sending 1.5 million wildebeest pouring down from distant hilltops in a vast, endless biological river that stretches beyond the horizon. Driven by insatiable hunger and the ancient, ancestral call of lush, green pastures waiting on the far bank, the wildebeest mass in a suffocating crush at the steep, crumbling edge of the Mara River. A fleeting moment of hesitation is immediately swept away by the enormous pressure from frenzied individuals shoving and jostling from behind, forcing thousands of creatures to leap blindly into the churning abyss below. The sound of water exploding upward, panicked bellowing, and the chaotic crash of colliding bodies merge into a horrifying symphony of death, echoing across the vast, open landscape. The savage current seizes the gaunt, desperately struggling bodies and flings them into a hopeless battle against ruthless underwater vortices that drag them in every conceivable direction. Yet the brutality of the churning, debris-laden water is not the worst horror awaiting the wildebeest in the deeper middle stretch of the river crossing. Dozens of crocodiles that have lain in disciplined ambush for days now surface simultaneously like dead logs, suddenly springing to terrifying life, their cavernous jaws gaping wide to reveal rows of gleaming teeth. The river water quickly froths white before turning a sickening deep crimson as iron-jawed grips lock onto the legs and necks of the most unfortunate souls caught in the open water. The crocodiles employ their devastating signature death roll, spinning continuously and violently beneath the surface to tear away massive chunks of flesh and drag their victims down to the dark, silent riverbed. The wildebeest mother swims frantically upstream to shield her weak and vulnerable calf, desperately using her curved horns to batter away the dark, sinister shapes closing in from below the waterline. A blood-soaked river crossing lays bare the rawest and most savage face of the natural world, a place where compassion has never once drawn breath or found a foothold. Amid the horrifying chaos of bodies and churning water, the wildebeest mother still uses her own body to part the current, creating a small protective slipstream so her calf can navigate through the most treacherous stretches. Having braved a gauntlet of encircling peril on every side, the strongest and luckiest wildebeest finally begin to feel solid, reliable ground beneath their hooves on the welcome opposite bank. They scramble up the slippery, steep embankment with trembling legs, shaking murky water from their drenched coats, and exhaling in sheer, overwhelming relief as though stepping back from the very gates of the underworld. The sacrifice of those who fell beneath the dark water has paved the way for millions of others to continue the great journey, sustaining the tireless and unbroken cycle of evolution. As the very last wildebeest in the herd hauls its battered body onto the safe bank, the sun sinks below the horizon at the very same moment, withdrawing its final blaze of golden light. The river of carnage gradually falls silent once more, concealing its terrible wounds beneath the turbid, blood-tinged water that continues its indifferent, eternal flow toward the unknown. The tug-of-war beneath the searing daylight has ended at last, but the pitch-black darkness, now drawing its heavy curtain across the sky, unveils an entirely new and different era of dominion. The survivors of the savage migration begin searching for soft patches of grass upon which to collapse, recovering from an exhaustion that has reached the very core of their battered being. Yet on the open savanna, peace is always the most fragile and fleeting of illusions, especially when the cold, heavy mantle of night begins seizing total control of the darkening landscape. The rules of engagement shift entirely, transferring power from the speed-driven, sharp-eyed visual hunters of the day to the silent, patient assassins that thrive within the veil of thermal darkness. Darkness is not liberation. It is a suffocating curtain, concealing quiet, invisible traps that patiently await the unwitting footstep of uninvited guests wandering too far from safety. Night descends upon the Serengeti, and the entire world sinks into a profound hush, broken only by the faint chirping of crickets and the lonely whisper of cold wind brushing through the tall grass. Temperatures plummet sharply, chasing away the suffocating midday heat and replacing it with a bone-penetrating chill that seeps slowly and cruelly into every fiber of exposed muscle. The wildebeest herd presses tightly together for warmth and protection, forming a solid, dark mass amid the silent, lightless expanse of the open grassland stretching endlessly in every direction. The calves, who narrowly escaped slaughter at the Mara River, burrow deep against their mothers' warm bellies, drifting into fitful, haunted sleep, still shadowed by the horrors they endured just hours before. The wildebeest mothers stay awake through the long night, their ears flicking ceaselessly to probe for any abnormal sound or distant footfall lurking within the darkness that surrounds them on all sides. When vision is stolen entirely by the engulfing night, the olfactory system immediately assumes command and becomes the supreme, indispensable line of defense. This sophisticated physiological engine continuously scans and isolates every molecular trace of nocturnal predator scent drifting through the cold, damp currents of the night air. A few restless individuals, unable to stand still any longer, break away from the protective center of the herd and begin wandering aimlessly along the base of a large, wind-carved ridge of rock. In the silent, impenetrable darkness, their vision is rendered completely useless, making every cautious, groping step a carrier of countless risks that are impossible to foresee. The search for a more comfortable resting spot inadvertently carries them beyond the verified perimeter of safety into unknown and uncharted territory. And one misplaced step that lands upon something soft and yielding beneath the thick carpet of decaying leaves instantly triggers a fatal snare that has been lying in patient wait. What lies beneath the dry, crackling leaves is not a hollow, rotting log, but the cold, immense coils of muscle belonging to an African rock python concealed deep within a narrow rock crevice. Stretching up to 20 feet in length with a powerful, barrel-thick girth, this formidable species of python ranks among the most dangerous, silent killers in existence. Possessing no limbs and no venom, the rock python wields a biological weapon far more potent than either the irresistible constricting power of dozens of feet of solid, unyielding muscle wrapped around its prey. What makes this moment truly striking is that in the freezing darkness, this giant serpent has absolutely no intention of hunting to fill its cavernous, empty stomach. Its entire elongated body is coiled into countless tight, protective arcs, cradling a massive clutch of precious eggs that radiates a faint but unmistakable warmth of nascent life. For a cold-blooded reptile, maintaining a stable temperature to incubate eggs through the bitter chill of an African winter night seems an almost impossible feat that defies the very nature of its biology. Yet the rock python has evolved over millennia to possess a trait that is utterly unique among reptiles: the ability to generate its own body heat through continuous, rhythmic, muscular contractions. Despite being classified as a cold-blooded creature, it commands a truly astonishing incubation mechanism. Thousands of individual muscle bundles across the mother python's body contract in precise, rhythmic pulses without ceasing. This ingenious process of shivering thermogenesis produces internally converted metabolic energy, maintaining the nest at an optimal survival temperature of a steady 90 degrees Fahrenheit. This staggering devotion consumes an enormous and irreplaceable quantity of stored energy, forcing the mother's body into a state of utter depletion in exchange for giving the next generation its chance to emerge into the world. Any disturbance or perceived threat to this priceless clutch of eggs will be met with an unstoppable fury from one of the most fearsome and powerful creatures on the entire continent. The wildebeest that inadvertently crosses into the python's fiercely defended perimeter receives an immediate, bone-chilling warning, a piercing hiss erupting from beneath the ground like escaping steam. The wedge-shaped head of the rock python rockets upward from the leaf, litter like a tightly coiled spring, its gaping jaws lined with hundreds of curved, needle-sharp teeth spread wide in unmistakable menace. Recognizing the imminent danger with sudden, visceral clarity, the wildebeest leaps backward in sheer terror, stumbles back several paces, and immediately wheels around to flee toward the distant safety of the herd. The giant serpent makes no attempt whatsoever to pursue it, slowly lowers its broad head, draws its powerful body inward, and resumes its steadfast, warming embrace around the tiny lives soon to be born. In the cold, starlit night of the Serengeti, the fierce and unquenchable flame of maternal devotion burns bright and unyielding, transcending the boundaries of every species from the warm-blooded to the cold. "24 grueling hours on this vast and unforgiving plain have laid bare the truest and most unvarnished colors of a world that holds no quarter for weakness or hesitation. Whether it is the towering giraffe, the diminutive warthog, the steadfast ostrich, the mighty elephant herd, or the silent rock python, every struggle converges on a single universal purpose: the defense of life itself. As a day of storms draws to its close, the next generation has endured beyond the threshold of death to continue writing the great, unending saga of survival. The plain sinks once more into solitary darkness. One cycle has ended, yet nature's eternal rhythm will continue forever where nothing truly concludes, and nothing here is ever truly safe. Thank you for joining WildVerse. The natural world still holds countless untold stories waiting to be told. We will see you on the next journey. In the driest land in Africa, where does water hide and who is wise enough to find it? But before answering, let us travel to where that question carries the weight of life and death. Deep in Namibia's interior, when the dry season tightens its grip, every creature converges on a single place: the last waterhole. And there, something is already waiting. "400 miles deep into Namibia's interior, as dusk settles over the Etosha savanna, the white glare of the salt pan fades into darkness. But in one place alone, life still stirs. The last waterhole of the dry season. A pool smaller than a football pitch, yet enough to decide who lives and who dies within a radius of dozens of miles. A herd of zebras approaches the water's edge in the fading light. Their ears swivel constantly, nostrils flaring to catch any scent. They know danger lurks, but thirst is stronger than fear. "40 feet from the waterhole, 5 tawny shapes lie flattened in dry grass, so still that heat shimmer blurs fur from stubble. No wind, no shade, only the patience of a predator, certain its prey must come. The Etosha lions are waiting. The male weighs up to 550 pounds, equal to a racehorse. A dark mane drapes over head and neck, thick enough to deflect a spear. But the male is not the primary hunter. The lioness, smaller, faster, unburdened by a wind-catching mane, is the true hunter of the pride. They coordinate in formation, closing in from multiple angles, funneling prey into a dead end. The coordination of Etosha's lionesses rivals military tactics. 1 or 2 serve as drivers pushing prey toward the ambush group. Others cut escape routes. The last waits at a calculated position. Not blind instinct, strategy. An Etosha lion pride typically numbers 5 to 15, females and cubs, plus 1 to 3 males. They establish territory around the waterhole. In the dry season, this is not merely home, it is the perfect trap. "80% of lion hunts take place at night. And in Etosha, that carries one meaning alone: at the waterhole in absolute darkness. A lion's eyes see 6 times better than a human's in low light. When a zebra lowers its head to drink, it is nearly blind. The lioness sees every droplet falling from the prey's muzzle. The lion's power lies not in speed; they run slower than most prey. It lies in patience, motionless for hours, breathing slowing, muscles coiling, waiting for the single instant prey drops its guard. Then a lunge. Claws rake into a shoulder. Jaws clamp around a throat. The waterhole erupts in spray and thunder. Then silence returns as swiftly as it was broken. The meal follows an immutable hierarchy. The male eats first, the lionesses next, the cubs last. In lion society, power writes every rule, including who eats and who waits. Within a 5-mile radius, a roar rolls across the earth, deep, resonant, shaking the ground itself. This is not meaningless aggression. This is a territorial declaration. This waterhole has an owner. Lions produce at least 9 distinct vocalizations, from a low grunt within the pride, to a full roar declaring territory, to a sharp snarl warning intruders. Each carries a precise message. In Etosha's darkness, voice is the weapon. But the night hunt does not always succeed. 7 to 8 of every 10 chases end in failure. Prey escapes. The lionesses return empty-handed. In Etosha, even the apex predator tastes defeat more often than victory. That is why lions never hunt just once in a night. They try again and again, until they succeed, or dawn arrives, whichever comes first. And a fresh kill offers no guarantee of peace. In the Etosha darkness, the scent of blood carries far, and blood always brings uninvited guests. Spotted hyenas, opportunistic predators with the strongest bite force of any land carnivore, hear the crack of bone from miles away. They arrive in packs, whooping and shrieking, attempting to overwhelm through numbers and sheer persistence. This is when the male proves his worth. 550 pounds of bristling mane charges in one roar sends 3 or 4 hyenas stumbling backward. But if 7 or more gather, even the male must yield. The contest at the waterhole never truly ends. It merely pauses, then erupts again when the next night falls. When dawn touches Etosha, the waterhole reveals the night's evidence. Streaks of blood on damp earth, claw marks in the mud, fur and bone at the water's edge. A story that needs no retelling. But morning brings an unexpected calm. The entire pride, last night's killers, lies sprawled beside the water, bellies distended, eyes half closed. Cubs gnaw at their mother's tail, climb onto their father's back. And only when the lions rest do the creatures that fled through the night dare return. Zebras, springbok, antelope they drink in haste, eyes never leaving the pride lying just dozens of feet away. A peace steeped in tension. Both hunter and prey need the waterhole. That is the cruelest irony of Etosha water, draws no line between the powerful and the vulnerable. It simply waits and watches who arrives first, who survives. During the day, lions sleep 16 to 20 hours, lying motionless beneath a tree, conserving energy for the next night's hunt. They appear impossibly lazy, but this is the calculated idleness of a predator certain it will dine tonight. Beside the adults, cubs play across golden grass wrestling, nipping, practicing ambushes, but innocence is not safety. Only 3 to 4 in 10 cubs survive to adulthood. Starvation, disease, rival males, all are enemies. The games of lion cubs are not games. Each swat at a mother's tail trains coordination. Each wrestling match teaches bite force, attack angle, when to release. Play becomes the hunt, and lessons from the grass decide who eats. The oldest male mane silvered with age, muzzle scarred from countless confrontations, patrols the territory each morning. He rubs against tree trunks, spraying urine to mark boundaries only lions can read. The territory of an Etosha pride can span up to 100 square miles with the waterhole at its center. Every sun-scorched tree, every acacia trunk, every termite mound serves as a waypoint on an invisible map. When a rival pride intrudes, typically in the dry season, when water grows scarce, the fight can last hours. Roars echo across the savannah night, and the resident pride does not always prevail. If the newcomers triumph, the conquering male kills every cub of the former pride brutally, yet driven by evolutionary logic, triggering lionesses to return to estrus, ensuring the next generation carries the victor's genes. Etosha lions live 10 to 14 years in the wild. Males rarely hold a pride longer than 3 to 4 years before a younger, stronger rival displaces them. Every dynasty falls in Etosha, as everywhere. But regardless of who rules, the waterhole remains the center of everything. Lions drink daily whenever possible. Unlike oryx and springbok, they cannot endure prolonged thirst. Water dictates territory. Territory dictates power. Power dictates which genes survive. In Etosha, the lion is not merely the apex predator atop the food chain. It is living proof of this land's most fundamental law: all power flows from water. But not every predator chooses the strategy of waiting. The cheetah carries within it an entirely different design. Long-legged, light-framed, spine flexing like a coiled spring, the cheetah accelerates to 60 miles per hour. The fastest land animal. It stalks prey on open plains, closing to 60 or 70 feet before exploding forward. Preferred prey: springbok and hares. Hunting hours: early morning and late afternoon when temperatures ease. Each chase lasts mere seconds. The cheetah lacks the stamina for a prolonged pursuit. They climb termite mounds and trees as lookouts, marking territory by scent, scanning the horizon with the keenest eyes on the plains. Every elevation is an advantage in Etosha. Advantage decides a full belly or an empty one. But speed is not always enough. Lions and hyenas routinely steal the cheetah's kill moments after it has brought down its prey. Smaller, lighter, Lacking the numbers of a pack, the cheetah rarely dares to fight back. Caution, therefore, becomes a survival skill no less vital than speed. In Etosha, water is power. The lion seizes it by force. The cheetah evades through speed. But a question lingers. In a land where the waterhole can run dry at any moment, where does water come from? To find the answer, we must turn westward to where Namibia begins, the oldest desert on the planet. In western Namibia, the Namib stretches more than 1,200 miles along the Atlantic. 600 million years ago, this land lay beneath the ocean. Ediacaran fossils, Earth's first marine organisms, remain imprinted on Comas Highlands stone. Then the continent rose. Volcanoes erupted. 550 million years of tectonic upheaval carved the surface apart, creating the Kalahari Plateau to the east and the coastal lowlands to the west. The Namib is not merely a vast desert. It is the most patient desert on the planet, 55 million years old, older even than the Himalayas. Annual rainfall measures only a few inches. Some areas see no rain for years at a stretch. Yet the Namib is not entirely devoid of water. Fog rolls in from the Atlantic up to 60 miles inland every morning, and that is all life here needs. At Sossusvlei, Crimson Dunes soar more than 1,150 feet. Iron oxide in the sand produces a deep red hue. The older the dune, the darker the shade. Nearby lies Deadvlei, a cracked white clay pan, where camelthorn trees that died 900 years ago still stand as silent sentinels. The hyper-arid climate preserves them like wooden statues in the desert. This is the portrait of a land that water abandoned long ago, yet its traces remain etched into every dead trunk. Amid that aridity, the darkling beetle, Stenocara gracileps, has evolved a mechanism of staggering elegance. Its carapace bears hydrophilic bumps, alternating with hydrophobic grooves. When coastal fog sweeps in, the beetle faces the wind. Moisture condenses on the bumps, trickles along the grooves, and channels into its mouth. Simple, precise, ruthless in its efficiency. This mechanism has inspired scientists at MIT and Oxford to develop atmospheric water harvesting systems, biomimicry technology drawn from a desert insect. But the darkling beetle is not the only creature that has learned to survive without drinking. The gemsbok oryx is the true icon of the Namib Desert. Weighing up to 460 pounds, standing nearly 4 feet at the shoulder, with straight horns measuring 33 to 47 inches. The oryx looks like a creature engineered for war. But its most formidable weapon is not those horns. It is the ability to endure heat. An oryx's body temperature can reach 113 degrees Fahrenheit, a level lethal to most mammals. Yet they do not sweat, not a single drop of water wasted. The secret lies in the carotid rete, a capillary network beneath the nose. Hot blood is cooled by nasal airflow before reaching the brain. The brain stays 2 to 3 degrees cooler enough to survive the harshest days. An oryx can live for weeks without drinking, drawing all its moisture from food. In a place where a single bead of sweat is a luxury, evolution has granted them the perfect solution. Sharing the desert with the oryx is the springbok, a small, nimble antelope with legs built to leap. Weighing 66 to 99 pounds, standing 28 to 34 inches tall, the springbok does not impress by size, but it possesses a behavior that astonishes every biologist who witnesses it. Pronking the springbok launches itself skyward, all 4 legs tucked beneath it, back arched like a drawn bow, reaching heights of up to 13 feet. No other antelope on Earth can do this. And like the oryx, the springbok can survive months without drinking, extracting moisture from succulent plants during the night when air humidity rises. The namib is no place for the frail, but for species that read every droplet, every trace of moisture, this is home. And the fog sustaining this desert arrives from the western coast, where cold ocean meets scorching sand. Namibia's western coast bears a name no one wishes to hear: Skeleton Coast. Where the Namib Desert meets the Atlantic along an edge, no creature crosses easily. Rusted shipwrecks lie scattered on the sand. Dense fog veils the horizon. The Benguela current, cold upwelling from the Atlantic floor, draws nutrients to the surface, creating one of the richest marine zones on Earth. The Benguela does not carry cold water from Antarctica, as many assume. As wind pushes surface water offshore, nutrient-rich deep water surges upward to replace it. This process continues without pause, day after day. Fog born from this cold current can penetrate up to 60 miles inland, sustaining an entire coastal ecosystem without a single drop of rain. But precisely because of that abundance, the Skeleton Coast is far from deserted. At Cape Cross, 300,000 Cape fur seals crowd onto the rocks. Their calls carry for miles a chaotic, roaring chorus of raw vitality. The pungent stench drifting from the colony can be detected miles away, long before the seals come into view. This is one of the largest colonies on Earth, where noise and odor never cease. Males weigh up to 770 pounds, triple the females at 125 to 265 pounds. They depend entirely on the Benguela nutrient-rich water means, abundant fish, and a thriving colony. During the breeding season in November and December, thousands of pups are born on the crowded rocks. A mother identifies her own pup by call and scent. Among a sea of 300,000 seals, each voice is unique. But the first weeks of life are the most perilous. Pups cannot yet swim, lack sufficient blubber to withstand the cold. They wait on the rocks, easy targets for the predator stalking from the sand. The IUCN classifies the Cape fur seal as near threatened, a warning that the ocean's bounty is not guaranteed forever. But where there are seals, there is always something watching. The black-backed jackal, weighing 13 to 29 pounds, its coat, a sleek silver black, is the consummate opportunist of the Skeleton Coast. They travel up to 31 miles per night along the shoreline, hunting for vulnerable seal pups, those that cannot yet swim, that have not yet learned to fear. The black-backed jackal hunts with patience, not speed. It observes for hours, waiting for a pup to stray just a few feet from its mother. That moment is all it needs. Beyond seal pups, jackals scavenge beached fish, bird eggs, and decomposing marine carcasses. They are not selective on the Skeleton Coast. Selectivity is starvation. The Skeleton Coast also harbors bird species few people have ever seen. The African black oystercatcher jet black plumage, a striking orange-red bill, hunts when the tide retreats, exposing shellfish clinging to the rocks. Breeding from September through April, they lay 1 to 3 eggs. But the survival rate is heartbreakingly low. Eggs lie exposed on the sand, vulnerable to predatory birds, strong winds, and unexpected tides. When the tide withdraws fully, the coastline reveals a microscopic world. Millions of rock-clinging organisms, oysters, starfish, each shallow pool is an ecosystem in miniature, waiting for the tide to return life to its waters. Along this coast, Every creature depends on the same thing, the cold current. Seals need fish. Jackals need seals. Seabirds need both. Cold water is the foundation and the promise. From the smallest phytoplankton to the 770-pound bull seal, every creature on this coast exists because of the deep current rising from the ocean floor. Sever that flow, and everything collapses. But that promise is being broken. To understand the true cost, we must return to the Etosha waterhole. Before learning what is lost at sea, let us see what sustains life on land. We have met the predators of Etosha. Now let us meet the creatures that approach the waterhole each day, knowing death may be waiting because they have no other choice. Etosha spans 8,600 square miles. Its heart is Etosha Pan, a salt flat of 1,900 square miles. Once a vast lake, it is now a white, cracked surface baking under the sun. In the wet season, water pours in and transforms the pan into a shallow lake. Flamingos arrive by the thousands. Migratory birds converge from across Africa. When the water returns, Etosha Pan becomes a colossal mirror reflecting the sky. Thousands of flamingos, pink wings blazing above silver water, create one of the most spectacular sights on the continent. But the flamingos come and go when the water recedes. They fly to other lakes hundreds of miles away. Only the species that remain through the dry season truly belong to Etosha. The dry season reveals Etosha's true nature. 114 mammal species and over 400 bird species converge on the last waterholes. Water becomes currency, and the lion controls that currency. But the first creature to reach the waterhole each morning, before even the lions, is a pale apparition. Etosha's elephants, 10 to 13 feet tall, up to 15,000 pounds, are coated in white dust from the salt pan. They resemble phantoms drifting across the savannah, the ghost elephants, as photographers call them. Each day, an adult elephant consumes 600 pounds of food and travels dozens of miles in search of water. The matriarch, the eldest female leading the herd, remembers the location of every water source across generations. The matriarch's memory is a legacy passed down over decades. She recalls water sources her grandchildren have never seen, underground wells that dried and refilled through dozens of dry seasons. But the elephant's most vital role is not as a drinker of water, but as a creator of it. To 4 feet deep, over hours, groundwater seeps upward, and suddenly, More than 20 species have a place to drink. Zebras, springbok, warthogs, all wait for the elephants to finish digging before taking their turn. This is ecosystem engineering, one species reshaping the environment for an entire community. Without elephants, the Etosha dry season would fall far more silent. Alongside the ghost herd, another creature appears at the waterhole, one that views the world from a height no other species can match. The Angolan giraffe, endemic to Etosha, stands up to 18 feet tall, weighing 1,800 to 2,600 pounds. A pale golden coat with distinctive brown patches sets it apart from southern relatives. They feed on acacia and capara leaves in the early morning and late afternoon when the sun is less fierce. Herds of 5 to 20 move unhurriedly between waterholes, long necks sweeping the horizon for miles. But when a giraffe drinks, it is at its most vulnerable. It must splay its front legs wide and lower that towering neck, surrendering every advantage of height and reaction speed. Each sip is a gamble with survival. For this reason, giraffes rarely drink. They draw most of their water from moisture-rich acacia leaves. When they must drink, one stands guard while the other bows its head. Males compete through necking, swinging necks with enough force to knock out an opponent. Females carry young for 13 to 15 months. A newborn stands within an hour in Etosha. Lying still too long is a death sentence. But if the giraffe sees farthest, then the creature that stands alone longest at the waterhole is the southwestern black rhinoceros. Weighing up to 2,980 pounds, living up to 50 years, the black rhino is Etosha's most solitary creature. It arrives at the waterhole alone, drinks alone, then vanishes into the scrub. Its hooked upper lip, adapted for browsing low vegetation, distinguishes it from the white rhinoceros. In 2024, the southwestern black rhino population was estimated at 2,597 individuals. The rhino's eyesight is nearly useless, the poorest vision of any large mammal in Etosha. But ears that rotate 360 degrees and a nose keener than a dog's compensate for everything. On the rhino's back, tiny brown oxpeckers pick off ticks and parasites, but they also serve as sentries. When danger draws near, the oxpeckers shriek an alarm to their host. The IUCN classifies this subspecies as near threatened, but the greatest threat comes not from nature, but from the black market for rhinoceros horn. Elephants dig wells. Giraffes stand watch. Rhinos come and go. Each species has its own way of coexisting with the waterhole and with the predators that lie in wait. The Etosha waterhole is where every rule of the wild is written: who arrives first, who must wait, who dares not come. Behind it all, the lions still lie in the grass, awaiting nightfall. But Etosha is not the only story of water running dry. Off the western coast, where the Benguela once sustained millions of seabirds, a silent catastrophe has unfolded over 50 years. The Benguela current does not merely generate fog. It brings millions of tons of phytoplankton to the surface, the foundation of a food chain that sustains the entire Namibian coastline. And no species reflects that dependence more clearly than the Cape gannet. With broad wings and a perfectly streamlined body, the Cape gannet plunges into the sea from heights of dozens of feet, striking the water at up to 62 miles per hour. When a shoal is spotted, hundreds of gannets dive simultaneously, a white rain from the sky. Air sacs beneath the chest skin absorb the impact of striking water at 62 miles per hour. They fly up to 124 miles offshore in search of sardine and anchovy shoals. Every flight is a wager. Fuel is limited, time is limited, and the fish are not always there. But the numbers tell the real story. In 1956, Namibia hosted 114,600 breeding pairs of Cape gannets on Mercury, Ichabod, and Possession Islands. By 2000, only 18,200 pairs remained. 84% gone in less than 50 years. The IUCN classified them as endangered in 2017, and they are not alone in this crisis. On Mercury and Ichabod Islands, the remaining colonies are cramped and cacophonous. Cape gannets nest shoulder to shoulder, each pair defending a patch of ground smaller than a doormat. Space shrinks. Conflict rises. Breeding rates decline. The Cape cormorant, 30 to 34 inches long, plumage a dark, iridescent blue-black dives to catch fish with professional precision. They too feed on sardines and anchovies. They too are vanishing. IUCN, endangered. But the greatest tragedy belongs to the African penguin, the only penguin species on the hottest continent on Earth. Standing 24 to 28 inches tall, weighing under 8 pounds, with black chest spots as unique as human fingerprints, the African penguin once thrived along the coasts of southern Africa and Namibia. Each chest spot is unique. Researchers use them to identify individual birds. The only penguin species outside cold regions, it evolved specialized sweat glands on its face to dissipate heat under the African sun. In 1910, the population was estimated at 1.5 million breeding pairs. Today, fewer than 10,000 remain 1,200 in Namibia and 8,750 in South Africa. A decline of more than 99%. In October 2024, the IUCN elevated the warning to critically endangered, the highest threat level before extinction. Scientists warn, without urgent intervention, the African penguin could become functionally extinct before 2035. The primary cause, overfishing of sardines and anchovies, the two staple foods compounded by climate change, pushing fish stocks farther offshore. Penguins must swim farther, expend more energy, and bring back less food for their chicks. Each pair of African penguins returns to the same nest, the same mate, every breeding season, a fidelity that lasts a lifetime. When one partner dies, the survivor often never finds another. Every individual lost erases 2 future generations. And here is the turning point of the story. The Benguela Current still carries nutrient-rich water, but overfishing has stripped the sardines and anchovies from the food chain. Nutrient-rich water becomes meaningless when the life within it has been taken. The water remains, but life still perishes. That is Namibia's cruelest paradox, a land where even finding water offers no guarantee of survival. What do you believe makes Namibia so extraordinary? The endurance of its creatures or the fragility of its ecosystems? Share your thoughts with WildVerse in the comments below. From the Savannah Waterhole Lions Command, through the desert where beetles harvest fog, to the ocean stripped of fish, each landscape tells a different chapter of water's story. But in the north, something none possess. A true river, and that river changes everything. In northern Namibia, where the border with Angola is erased by flowing water, the Kunene River cuts a straight line through the desert, pouring from the Angolan highlands into the Atlantic Ocean. This is not fog, not a waterhole slowly draining. This is real water, a continuous flow, the last artery of the driest land on the continent. The Kunene cascades over the falls at Epupa and Ruacana, before spreading into floodplains, white water transforming into a languid current, spilling over its banks each rainy season, sustaining the entire northeast of Namibia. And where the Kunene meets the Zambezi floodplains in the far northeast, Namibia reveals a face no one expects. Lush marshlands, water lilies blanketing the surface, grass so tall it swallows a person whole. This is the Zambezi region, the complete antithesis of the Namib Desert, just a few hundred miles away. And on the leaf-covered water, a small creature is doing the impossible. The African jacana walks on water, not swimming, not flying, walking. The secret lies in extraordinarily long toes that spread wide, distributing its weight across lily pads just enough to stay afloat. A natural engineer that needs no blueprint. It picks insects and mollusks from floating leaves. Sometimes it climbs onto the backs of buffalo or hippos to pluck parasites. When threatened, the jacana dives, leaving only its bill above water to breathe, vanishing completely. But the most remarkable thing about the jacana is not how it walks, it is how it loves. The female mates with multiple males, polyandrous, then departs. The male incubates the eggs. The male raises the chicks. The male guards the nest. In the world of the jacana, roles are entirely reversed. When chicks hatch, the male broods them on floating leaves, sheltering young beneath his wings. If danger nears, he tucks each chick under his wings and sprints across the water, a sight both comical and heroic. Sharing the waterways with the jacana are pale figures standing as still as statues. The great white egret, 3 feet tall, with a 5-foot wingspan, stands motionless in shallow water for hours. Absolute patience. Then its sharp bill strikes downward like an arrow, precise, without mercy. During breeding season, the egret's bill shifts from yellow to jade green. Long tail plumes grow out like silk ribbons used to court a mate in ceremonial dances at the water's edge. The flood season transforms the Zambezi floodplain into a paradise for fish and for every species that feeds on them. Great egrets, marabou storks, kingfishers, each occupies a different layer of water, avoiding direct competition amid the abundance. But if the great egret is the silent one, then the marabou stork is the creature no one wishes to stand near. 5 feet tall, with a wingspan of 9 feet 4 inches, the marabou stork is among the largest flying birds on Earth. Its nickname, the Undertaker bird. The marabou is a scavenger, competing with vultures over carrion. But it is also a skilled fish hunter in shallow water, wielding its enormous bill to cleave the surface with surgical precision. Herds of African buffalo, weighing 930 to 1,900 pounds, migrate along the river, thousands strong, their curved horns formidable, their heavy steps pressing into the bank. Buffalo are grazers, eating grass, maintaining the balance of the grasslands, preventing vegetation from growing so tall it obscures the sightlines of other species. Their ecological role is quiet but irreplaceable. Moving buffalo herds carve trails through the grassland pathways that dozens of other species use. Their heavy hooves also compact the soil, creating small pools after rain microhabitats for frogs, insects, and small birds. And in the middle of the river, where the water runs deepest, where no land creature dares to wade the true sovereign surfaces, the hippopotamus, weighing 2,200 to 4,400 pounds, standing 4 feet 3 to 4 feet 6 inches tall, thick-skinned, hairless, adapted to spending its life submerged. By day, they sink beneath the river, only eyes, ears, and nostrils breaking the surface. By night, they haul themselves ashore to graze, traveling miles before returning to the water at dawn. The bull hippo defends its underwater territory by gaping wide, displaying canine teeth measuring up to 20 inches. If the challenger does not retreat, battle begins. Two 4,000-pound masses colliding amid eruptions of spray. Hippo dung, strange as it sounds, plays a critical ecological role. They deposit waste into the river, supplying nutrients to algae and microorganisms, the foundation of a food chain that sustains fish and the entire riverine ecosystem. The hippopotamus is the final icon in water's journey. From the dewdrop on a beetle's shell to the river where hippos wallow, water has changed its form each time it crosses into a new landscape. But the river is narrowing. Namibia is warming. According to environmental assessments, average temperatures have risen more than 1.5 degrees Celsius over the past 50 years, faster than the global average. More than 30% of natural land has been converted to agriculture and settlement. Migration corridors, the invisible pathways, elephants, buffalo, and antelope have walked for thousands of years, are being severed. The Kunenka runs lower with each dry season. The Zambezi floodplains shrink in area, and every inch of water lost drags another link from the chain of life. Buffalo herds walk silently along the narrowing riverbank. Hippos surface amid water, muddier than any year before. The paradise is still there, but it is growing smaller. The CBNRM model, community-based natural resource management, empowers local communities to protect their land and wildlife while sharing the benefits of ecotourism. The results are not theory. Lion populations are increasing, elephant numbers are recovering, and species thought to have been lost are returning. In the Torah Conservancy in Damaraland, where 20 years ago wildlife had nearly vanished, desert elephants, lions, and leopards have returned. Ecotourism revenue now provides employment for hundreds of families. In 2018, the Lion Ranger program was launched, placing rangers within communities that live alongside lions. Early warning technology, predator-proof enclosures, reducing human-lion conflict without killing a single animal. The desert-adapted elephants of the Kunene, one of only 2 such populations on Earth, faced near extinction in the 1980s. Today, thanks to CBNRM, the population has recovered to approximately 600 individuals. They travel more than 60 miles per day in search of water and remember the location of every water source across generations. The elephant's memory is a legacy passed from mother to calf. But not every story has a beautiful ending. Each year, dozens of rhinos are killed for their horns feeding a black market where rhinoceros horn outvalues gold. 2,597 southwestern black rhinos, counted, named, tracked, and still not safe. The African penguin needs action now, not tomorrow, not next year. Every breeding pair lost is one step closer to functional extinction. Rescue programs like SANCOB rehabilitate injured and orphaned penguins before release. But at the current decline rate, individual rescue is insufficient. Fishing must be banned within their core foraging zones. And the Zambezi floodplain's paradise for the jacana, the hippo, and the buffalo must be protected before it is too late. Every struggle in Namibia, in the end, is a struggle for water. From the dewdrop on the beetle's shell atop the dune to the last drop in the Etosha waterhole as it dries to the narrowing flow of the Kunene River. Water is not merely H2O. In Namibia, water is a promise, a memory, a future. Each of us can play a part, reducing plastic waste that reaches the ocean, conserving water every day, supporting sustainable products, sharing the stories of species that need to be heard. Because if a beetle, smaller than a coin, knows how to find water in a desert 55 million years old, we have no reason to give up. Namibia's story is not a tragedy. It is a story of endurance of beetles, of oryx, of desert elephants, and of human communities that chose to live with the wild rather than destroy it. Namibia does not need saving. It needs us to stop pushing it to the edge. And somewhere atop the tallest dune in the Namib Desert, a darkling beetle faces away from the sea, waiting for the first dewdrop of a new day. That droplet condenses on its shell, slides slowly downward, and that is enough. As it has been every day, as it has been for every million years. Thank you for joining WildVerse. The natural world still holds countless stories waiting to be told. If you have not yet subscribed, now is the perfect time. We will see you on the next adventure. The Luangwa River, the lifeblood of over 3,500 square miles of wilderness, is now just a chain of pools linked by dried mud. Every creature in this valley knows, he who controls the water survives, and none knows this better than those at the top of the food chain. A pride of lions moves through the scorched grass, silent, purposeful, and hungry. Their paws press into the red dust like quiet emblems of desperation. The lead lioness lifts her head to the wind. Ahead, nearly 3 miles away, lies the last waterhole the pride knows of. The dry season in Luangwa does not arrive gently. It comes like a sentence declared by cloudless skies and a fractured earth. For lions, the dry season presents a grim paradox. Prey is scarcer, yet more predictable. As the tributaries run dry, every herbivore is drawn to the river's edge, and the lionesses know exactly where they will appear. In the blistering midday sun, 4 lionesses form a silent, encircling arc. Their target, a group of impala drinking at a shallow bend in the river. Impala antelopes that can leap over 30 feet in length and 10 feet high are the lion's most common prey in the dry season, but they are not easily taken. Lions prefer to hunt in darkness, but the dry season forces them to act by day when prey is concentrated by the water, with nowhere left to hide. The pride's tactic is a choreography of precision. 1 lioness to flush, 2 to block the escape routes, and a 4th to deliver the final blow. But even with a perfect strategy, the success rate is only around 25 to 30%. 3 out of every 4 hunts end in failure. In less than 3 seconds, the space between life and death is erased. The impala falls. The lioness is quickly surrounded, but do not yet eat. The panting breaths of the victors and the gasps of the vanquished dissolve into the Luangwa heat as if they never were. They wait. The law of the pride is clear. The males eat first, even if they did not join the hunt. It is the price of their protection. Luangwa's dry season turns every meal into a calculation of survival and every sip of water into a gamble. But this is no ordinary place. This is one of Africa's most extraordinary ecosystems, with a history far older than our own species. South Luangwa, a game reserve since 1938 and a national park since 1972, lies in eastern Zambia, near the borders of Malawi and Mozambique. But its conservation story began much earlier, in 1904. The Muchinga escarpment towers to the west, walling the valley off from the high plateau. The river has meandered for millions of years, leaving behind oxbow lagoons now oases of life as the dry season deepens. Over 60 large mammal species and 450 species of birds call this place home. But there is one painful absence. Not a single rhinoceros remains wiped out by poaching. If a disease were to sweep through, an entire species could vanish from the earth forever. And as the water recedes, the first to feel the crisis are not the smallest creatures, but the largest. A herd of African elephants moves along the dry riverbed. Red dust rises with each heavy footfall, coating their wrinkled grey hides. The matriarch, the old grandmother, leads with the certainty of one who has survived dozens of dry seasons. In elephant society, she is living memory. She has no GPS, no map, yet she remembers. Every path, every waterhole, every well site passed down from 3 generations before her. A bull elephant can weigh up to 14,000 pounds with a shoulder height exceeding 13 feet. Their enormous ears are not just for hearing. They are natural radiators, a dense network of blood vessels that helps cool the body as the ground shimmers with heat. The trunk, with over 40,000 individual muscle units, can uproot a tree, yet is delicate enough to pick up a single seed. Their tusks, in reality, elongated incisor teeth, are tools for digging, weapons for defense, and the very things that have made them a target for centuries. But in the dry season, the elephant's most remarkable skill is not its strength, it is its engineering. When the riverbed is bone dry, the elephants do not wait, they dig. Using their trunks and front feet, they excavate the damp sand, sometimes over 3 feet deep, until groundwater begins to seep up. An adult elephant can dig a well in under 20 minutes faster than any team of engineers. These elephant-made wells become a lifeline for more than 20 other species, from antelope to small birds, from baboons to monitor lizards. In ecology, elephants are known as keystone engineers, a species that modifies its habitat in a way that benefits countless others at no cost to them. They communicate in infrasound frequencies, so low the human ear cannot detect them, which travel up to 6 miles through the ground, carrying information about water, danger, and loss. The herd marches through the Mopane woodland, trailing a mobile ecosystem. Their dung disperses the seeds of dozens of plant species, reforesting the very paths they walk. But the matriarch knows nothing of statistics. She knows only that this year there is less water than any year before, and she must find more for her family. As the herd stops to dig, the matriarch stands guard. Occasionally, she touches her trunk to a white bone lying in the dry riverbed, the remains of another elephant. Researchers have called this a form of grieving. Elephants will stop, touch, and smell, sometimes standing in silence for minutes over the remains of their own kind, as if in remembrance. No one knows what they are thinking in these moments, but the silence speaks volumes. Perhaps the truth is simpler. When a creature with a mind as vast as an elephant's confronts death, it feels what we can only call loss. As the afternoon sun slants across the Muchinga range, another shape emerges from the woodland. This one needs no herd, no well, no one. South Ruangwa has a nickname known to every wildlife photographer, the Valley of the Leopard. The density of leopards here is among the highest in Africa, and the dry season, when the vegetation thins, is the best time to see them. Weighing between 65 and 200 pounds depending on sex, the leopard is the perfect solitary predator, far smaller than a lion, but more versatile than any other big cat. Its night vision is 7 times better than ours, turning every shadow in the forest into its private domain. The coat of rosettes is not merely for beauty. Against the sun-dappled leaf litter of the Mopane forest, the leopard becomes almost invisible. When a kill is made, a leopard does not dine on the ground. It hauls the carcass, sometimes twice its own body weight, up a mopane tree to keep it from scavenging hyenas and lions. The strength required is equivalent to a human lifting a 400-pound weight into a tree, and the leopard does this as a matter of routine. While the lion pride must share every scrap, the leopard provides only for itself. It is the privilege of the solitary hunter. But as the water sources shrink, the lone hunter and the great prides will be forced to share the same riverbank, and the lines between them will blur dangerously. For at the edge of the Luangwa, there are residents who came first, before the lions, before the leopards, and long before humankind. Sunrise in Luangwa brings no relief. It brings heat, and heat drives every creature towards the water. This is where the conflict begins. On the west bank of the Luangwa, a herd of African buffalo appears hundreds strong, coated in red dust, moving like a tired but resolute army. A fully grown bull can weigh up to 2,100 pounds and stand 5.5 feet at the shoulder, a living wall of muscle on 4 legs. Atop its head, the fused base of the horns known as the boss is so hard it can withstand a direct impact from another bull without fracturing. But the most extraordinary thing about the buffalo is not its brawn. It is a form of democracy, older than any of our own. In 1996, researcher Herbert Prinz discovered that when a herd chooses its direction of travel, the adult females stand, turn to face their preferred direction, and the majority vote decides the day's route. A voting system in a 1-ton herbivore. Today, the herd votes to head east towards the river, not because they want to, but because there is no other choice. The herd must cross a stretch of river, where water remains where the mud is chest deep, and the surface is deceptively calm. Because beneath that still water, something is waiting, and it has been waiting for a very long time. But before the encounter in the water, the herd must face the threat on land, the lions. The lionesses have arrived, first lying in ambush on the far bank, exactly where the buffalo will emerge after crossing the river. As hundreds of buffalo enter the water, the lions lie still in the dry grass. They know that in the mud, buffalo are slower, and the young calves always lag behind. But the buffalo are not naive. When they catch the scent of lion on the wind, the lead bulls trigger a defensive reflex honed over millions of years. They form ranks, bosses facing out, calves in the center. Every movement is carried out in absolute silence. Buffalo are one of the few herbivores that will actively turn and attack lions, and it is not uncommon for them to win. The standoff lasts until the sun is at its highest. Neither side will back down, but the dry season will bring them both back to this very bank, this afternoon, tomorrow, and the day after. This is the nature of the Luangwa dry season. There are no victories, only temporary truces between rounds of conflict. A few hundred yards downstream, another world exists, more simmering, but no less violent. The oxbow lagoons shrink with each passing day, and the creature that rules them is not placid in the face of this change. An adult male hippopotamus can weigh up to 4,000 pounds and measure 13 feet long, a near hairless mass of muscle. Its thick skin is covered in a pink secretion that was once mistaken for bloody sweat. It is, in fact, a natural sunscreen and antibiotic synthesized by the hippo's own body, an invention perfected over 400 million years of evolution. Do not be deceived by their bulk. On land, a hippo can reach speeds of 30 miles per hour, faster than any human sprinter. In the rainy season, each hippo has ample space. In an El Niño dry season, the lagoons shrink to the size of a bathtub, and dozens are forced into the same hot, muddy pool. Territorial conflicts erupt. The dominant male opens its jaws, its thick lips stretching over 2 feet, in a threat known as the yawning display. If the display is not enough, its tusk-like canine teeth, over a foot long, will settle the dispute. After an 8-month gestation, a calf is born weighing 50 to 100 pounds, and a hippo mother will defend her young with a ferocity that even lions avoid. The hippopotamus is the closest living terrestrial relative of whales and dolphins, a truth proven by DNA analysis, though the eye would never guess it. The International Union for Conservation of Nature lists the hippo as vulnerable. Every harsh, dry season like this one pushes them closer to the edge. Underwater, hippos communicate by vocalizing through their larynx, creating sounds that travel 4 times faster than in air, echoing through the lagoon like a secret network. It is a resident that even the most ancient of reptiles must think twice before provoking. And speaking of ancient reptiles, the true ruler of the Luanga's waters is lying just beneath the surface, less than 30 feet away. The Nile crocodile, Africa's largest reptile, lies motionless on a sandbank, with only its eyes and nostrils breaking the murky water. Growing up to 20 feet long and weighing over 1,500 pounds, they are the embodiment of patience, perfected over hundreds of millions of years. The bite force of a Nile crocodile is among the most powerful ever recorded for any animal strong enough to crush a buffalo's femur in a single snap. And the dry season is their golden age. The water recedes, the river channel narrows, and all prey is forced to come closer. The crocodile does not need to hunt. It only needs to wait. And on this planet, no creature is better at waiting. As an antelope lowers its head to drink, the surface explodes 20 feet of armored muscle, launching upwards in less than a second. The jaws clamp. It performs its death roll and drags the prey to the bottom. This technique has not changed in 200 million years because it has not needed to. But Nile crocodiles are not just killing machines. They are also surprisingly dedicated parents. A female lays 25 to 80 eggs, buried deep in the warm sand of the riverbank. The temperature of the nest determines the sex of the hatchlings. Around 89 degrees Fahrenheit produces males, while higher or lower temperatures produce females. When the eggs hatch, the mother crocodile gently scoops up her young in her jaws, the same jaws with the most powerful bite in Africa, and carries them to the water. Both parents will guard their young for the first few weeks, a protective behavior few would associate with a cold-blooded reptile. But beneath the armor, there is a parental instinct. The dry season turns the riverbank into a stage where buffalo, hippo, and crocodile are forced to share a shrinking space, with lions watching from the wings. When the oxbows shrink so much that hippo and crocodile touch, when the buffalo have no path of retreat, all territorial rules are erased, and primal instinct takes over. But in Luangwa, the most dangerous animal is not always the largest. It is the one that cooperates. And as the afternoon sun blazes across the valley, two armies, one of numbers, one of speed, are preparing for a confrontation that only the dry season can create. An unearthly, whooping call echoes from the east bank, not a sound of joy, but the rallying cry of Africa's most misunderstood predator. The spotted hyena, made a fool by Hollywood, but in reality, one of the most formidable hunters on the Growing to nearly 6 feet, including the tail, and weighing up to 180 pounds, the spotted hyena is much larger than cartoons portray. Its jaws can generate a bite force of over 1,000 pounds per square inch, among the strongest of any mammal predator, enough to splinter a giraffe's leg bone. And its reputation as a scavenger, a slander that has lasted for centuries. Modern research shows that around 60% of a spotted hyena's diet comes from its own kills, not from scavenging leftovers. They hunt in groups of 3 to 15, using a pincer movement and maintaining speeds of 35 miles per hour in extended chases. Spotted hyena society is one of the animal kingdom's great surprises, a strict matriarchy. Females dominate males in every respect, from feeding rights to breeding rights. In the dry season, spotted hyenas play a vital, underappreciated role. They are the ecosystem's sanitation crew. They consume bone, hide, and organs, parts that no other predator will touch. Without them, carcasses would accumulate, and disease would spread rapidly in the heat. Right now, the hyenas are not looking for old carcasses. They have caught the scent of fresh blood from the lion pride's unfinished meal. The hyena clan advances on the buffalo kill in the searing heat. The lions issue a warning growl. It is a contest of numbers versus raw power. The hyenas circle, test, retreat, and advance again. Each time, the distance between them shrinks. In the Luangwa ecosystem, the clash between hyena and lion is not a rare event. It is a constant rhythm, especially when the dry season forces them to the same limited food sources. Sometimes the lions keep their prize. Sometimes the mob rules. And sometimes both lose when another pack emerges from the riverine forest. This ancient conflict is not just about food. It is about control. Who gets to eat, who must wait, and who must walk away. But in Luangwa, there is a third army, smaller, rarer, but so efficient that both lion and hyena must pay it respect. The African wild dog, the only surviving member of the genus Lycaon, materializes at the edge of the Mopane woodland like mottled ghosts. The pack number's only 12, but those 12 hunt with a success rate of up to 80%, compared to the 25 to 30% of lions. Each individual has a unique, painted coat. No two are alike nature's own fingerprint. They can sustain 37 miles per hour on chases that last for miles, running their prey to exhaustion rather than overpowering it. The pack's structure revolves around a single breeding pair, the alpha male and alpha female. The entire pack helps raise their pups. And when the pack needs to decide whether to hunt, they don't growl or fight, they sneeze. In 2017, a study published in the Proceedings of the Royal Society B confirmed that wild dogs use sneezes as a form of voting. Once a quorum of sneezes is reached, the pack moves out. If an alpha sneezes first, fewer votes are needed. If a subordinate initiates, more sneezes are required to reach a consensus. A weighted democracy in an animal that weighs less than 65 pounds. But democracy has not saved them from the brink of extinction. The International Union for Conservation of Nature lists the African wild dog as endangered. Only about 6,600 adults remain, scattered across 39 fragmented populations. Many are too small to be viable. Canine distemper, rabies, poachers' snares, habitat loss. Their list of enemies is longer than their list of prey. In Luangwa, the El Niño dry season forces them into lion territory, where every encounter could cost them a member the pack cannot afford to lose. But in wild dog society, there is an unwritten rule that no other large predator follows. After a successful hunt, the pack returns to the den first and regurgitates food for the pups, for the old, and for the injured who could not join the hunt. In the wild dog pack, no one is left behind, not even the weakest. It is the privilege and the burden of a species that knows communal care. As the evening light fades, the pack melts back into the Miombo woodland as quickly as they appeared. And with the first light of a new day, another sound rises, not a roar, not a cackle, not a sneeze. It is a cry high-pitched, ringing and echoing across the water from the bird Zambians consider the very soul of the river. The African fish eagle, the national bird of Zambia, and also of Zimbabwe and South Sudan, perches on a dead tree rising from the dry riverbed. With a wingspan of up to 8 feet, and feet with specially roughened pads and curved talons to grip slippery fish, the fish eagle is the perfect aerial hunter. They mate for life. Their nests, which can be over 6 feet across, are reused year after year, with new branches added each season like pages in a diary. Each clutch contains 1 to 3 eggs, but the fish eagle's most important role is not procreation. It is to be a biological indicator. When the call of the fish eagle rings out over the Luangwa, it is a sign that the river is still breathing, that the water is clean enough, the fish are plentiful enough, that the aquatic ecosystem has not yet collapsed. When the fish eagle falls silent, that is the time to fear. And in this El Niño dry season, its calls are becoming scarcer. Where a stretch of river has dried up completely, the eagle has gone. Where it remains, there is still hope. At the base of the eagle's perch, a troop of chacma baboons forages on the hot ground, not picky, not complaining, not giving up. Baboons are southern Africa's largest primate. A male can weigh up to 90 pounds, measure over 4 feet long, and possesses canine teeth nearly 2 inches in length that can make a leopard think twice. A troop can number from 20 to 80 individuals, and they are true omnivores, eating everything from seeds, fruits, and insects to birds' eggs and even scorpions. They are a living encyclopedia of wild foods, and in the dry season, that knowledge is a decisive advantage. Their communication system is astonishingly complex. Over 60 gestures and 36 different vocalizations, one of the richest vocabularies in the non-human primate world. When the dry season takes away their usual food sources, baboons do not panic. They adapt, digging for roots, catching insects, finding larvae under bark, with a flexibility no specialist can match. When they rest, they climb to a height of about 25 feet, well out of reach of leopards and hyenas below. A simple habit, but one that saves the troop. They are the last to leave when the dry season is at its worst, and the first to return when the first raindrop falls. Proof that in Luangwa, life always finds a way, no matter how difficult the path. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson Luangwa teaches anyone who comes here. Survival belongs not to the strongest, but to the most adaptable. But life needs its guardians, and in South Luangwa, the fight for conservation is not an abstract concept. It happens every day, on the ground, in the red dust and searing sun. The Zambian carnivore program tracks wild dog packs and hyena clans with GPS, providing real-time data to anti-poaching patrols. The legacy of Norman Carr lives on. 70 years after he opened the first walking safari camp, his philosophy of community-based conservation remains the foundation of all efforts in Luangwa. Carr once said that to save wildlife, you must first uplift the people who live alongside it. In Luangwa, his words are as true today as they were then. Because conservation in Africa cannot succeed if it is divorced from the people who share the land. Every ranger who patrols all day in the sun, every vet who removes a snare from a struggling animal, every family that chooses not to poach despite their hunger, they are all part of the answer. And the question, the one the Luangwa River posed at the beginning, still echoes. When the river becomes the only lifeline, who survives, and at what cost? The lion pays with its territory. The elephant pays with its memory. The leopard pays with its solitude. The buffalo pays with its young. The hippo pays with its space. The crocodile pays nothing, for its dues were paid 200 million years ago. The hyena pays with a stolen reputation. The wild dog pays with the very existence of its species. But the rains will return. They always do. When the first clouds gather over the Muchinga escarpment, when the first drop of water hits the red earth, when the Luangwa River stirs from its sandy bed, every creature in this valley will look up. Not out of gratitude, but because they are programmed for hope, for their ancestors survived 1 million dry seasons before this one. The Luangwa River belongs to no one. It belongs to every creature that dared to stay when everything seemed to say, leave. And tomorrow, as the sun rises again over the valley, the struggle for survival will continue, as it has for 300 million years. Because in Luangwa, nothing ever ends. Everything simply begins again. The tropical sun awakens the vast grassland. After the rains, a velvet green carpet stretches to the horizon, breathing with the vibrant pulse of life. Herds of herbivores graze peacefully, immersed in the abundance. But in the brilliant light of day, every silence conceals a hungry eye. It illuminates every blade of grass, a reminder that death is always waiting for a moment of distraction. Life is a relentless, unforgiving gamble. The weak quickly become a memory. But nowhere is the power and cruelty of life more clearly defined than the African savanna, the domain of the lion. The lion is the undisputed emperor, one that has no need to conceal its power. The rich, green grasslands now become the perfect camouflage, sheltering these apex predators. A chase erupts in a flash, under the open sky. The hungry pride of lions is not just a predator, it is a coordinated force, moving with the cold precision of seasoned warriors. They are nature's brutal coalition, where the strength of one is magnified into the absolute dominance of many. The victim falls under overwhelming weight. The lion's method of killing is a statement, a slow suffocation, an overpowering by mass and number. A gradual death unfolds in the glaring light, the opening act in the unforgiving laws of survival on our planet. But power on the African plains is never an absolute monarchy. Even the proudest kings must face fierce resistance from forces that will not submit. In the brilliant light of day, as the earth begins to radiate a heat that blurs the horizon, a series of eerie, challenging calls rings out. It is the rallying cry of the spotted hyena, the lion's ancient enemy and its most worthy rival for the throne. For too long, they have been unfairly cast as cowardly scavengers, trailing in the footsteps of other predators. But the sun, which reveals all truths, exposes their true nature. They are among the most brutal, intelligent, and efficient hunters on the continent. Their bodies are built for relentless, life-or-death pursuits, designed to exhaust their prey's last ounce of strength under a blistering sun. Unlike the lion, whose bulk demands short bursts of speed, the spotted hyena possesses astonishing stamina, allowing it to maintain a high-speed chase for many miles. And when they close in on their target, the punishment they deliver is inescapable. The spotted hyena possesses one of the most powerful bites in the entire terrestrial animal kingdom. Their formidable jaws not only tear through the toughest hide, but can also effortlessly crush the largest, hardest bones. This immense mechanical power makes them a perfect consuming machine, leaving not a single scrap behind on the battlefield of survival. A large, cohesive clan of spotted hyenas will never hesitate to confront a pride of lions for control of a bloody feast. Fierce, drawn-out clashes between these two powers frequently erupt in broad daylight, turning the tranquil grassland into an unforgiving arena of violence. Here, there is no room for mercy or weakness. Only the stronger jaw and the greater number will earn the right to quiet a screaming stomach. But life on the harsh savanna is not confined to the dusty earth.